In June of 1816, snow fell on New England. Not a dusting. 6 inches in the towns, 18 inches in the Vermont hills. Birds dropped frozen in the fields. Farmers tied sheared fleeces back onto their sheep, and the sheep froze anyway. Every single month that year brought a killing frost. Folks stopped calling it 1816. They called it 1800 and froze to death. And here's the part that should scare you. Nobody on Earth knew why. The answer had already happened, a year earlier, on the far side of the world. Stay with me. By the end of this story, this one event will touch the book on your shelf, the bike in your garage, and the map of the United States. The first sign that something was wrong was the sky itself. In the spring of 1816, a dry fog settled over the Northeast. No rain touched it, no wind moved it. The sun dimmed and turned red. People could stare straight at it, and they saw dark spots on its face with the naked eye. Governors declared days of prayer. A diarist in Connecticut wrote, "The vegetation does not seem to advance at all." In Salem, the thermometer hit 74 degrees one April day and plunged to 21 within 30 hours. Then came May 12th, a killing freeze from Maine to New York. Ice an inch thick on the ponds. Every fruit tree bud dead. But May was only the warning. June was the blow, June 6th, 1816. Snow begins to fall across New England, and it doesn't stop for 2 days. A clockmaker named Chauncey Jerome walked to work in an overcoat and mittens in June. Boston's flurries that week are still the latest ever recorded there. In Cabot, Vermont, 18 inches. The Quebec Gazette wrote that the country had the appearance of the middle of December. Then the weather turned vicious in a stranger way, it teased. On June 22nd, Salem hit 101 degrees. 12 days later, men played quoits on the 4th of July wearing overcoats. In August, the killing frosts returned 3 separate times. Farmers wrapped their plants in rags. Then they gave up and cut their unripe corn for animal fodder. The corn crop, the crop the poor depended on, was nearly a total loss. Hay that sold for $30 a ton now sold for $180. Oats went from 12 cents a bushel to 92. Families ate pigeons, raccoons, nettles. The New Hampshire Patriot wrote that Indian corn is cut off. And then, something in the Americans' spirit snapped. If the land wouldn't feed them, they would leave it. They called it Ohio fever. Thousands of farm families abandoned New England for the Midwest. Vermont alone lost somewhere between 10 and 15,000 people. One witness called it a sort of stampede from cold, desolate, worn-out New England. Among those who packed up after a third straight crop failure was a poor Vermont farm family named Smith, whose son Joseph would later found a religion. One New Hampshire man, Reuben Whitten, coaxed 40 bushels of wheat from a south-facing plot and shared it with his neighbors. When he passed, they raised a stone that still stands, saying his wheat kept his family and neighbors from starvation. But as bad as New England had it, almost nobody there starved. Europe was not so lucky. Europe's summer ran 2 to 4 degrees below normal, and the harvest failed from Ireland to Russia. Rye prices in Germany multiplied 2.5 times. Food riots swept England, France, and Belgium. Switzerland declared a national emergency. A letter from Paris said simply, "In the memory of no man living has a season been so cold, there has been no summer." Then disease followed hunger. In Ireland, a typhus epidemic burned for 3 years and claimed around 65,000 lives. Germany would remember 1817 as the year of the beggar. Historians call it the worst famine of the entire 19th century. In China's Yunnan province, the faltering monsoon brought 3 years of famine, the worst in its recorded history. Remember, nobody knew why. Not the farmers, not the governors, not the scientists. Among the oblivious, a group of young writers trapped by the rain on Lake Geneva, about to turn the worst summer in history into the most famous monster in history. Here is what actually happened. On April 10th, 1815, a full year before the snows, Mount Tambora, on the island of Sumbawa in what is now Indonesia, exploded. It was the largest volcanic eruption in recorded human history. The eruption column punched 27 miles into the sky. The mountain lost its top 4,000 feet. Between the eruption itself and the famine and disease that followed on the islands nearby, somewhere between 71,000 and 120,000 people perished. And into the stratosphere, Tambora injected around 60 million tons of sulfur, 6 times what Pinatubo released in 1991. It spread into a veil around the planet, dimming the sun. Global land temperatures the following year fell by roughly 2 degrees Celsius. It doesn't sound like much. It was enough to erase a summer, But the most haunting part? In 1816, no human being made the connection. News from Indonesia took months to cross the world. The link between volcanoes and climate wouldn't even be proposed until 1913, more than 100 years later. The people freezing in June blamed sunspots, ice flows, deforestation, and God. Anything but a mountain on the equator, which brings us back to Lake Geneva. At the Villa Diodati, Lord Byron and his guests, including 18-year-old Mary Godwin and the poet Percy Shelley, were trapped indoors by relentless rain for days. Mary later wrote, "It proved a wet, ungenial summer. So Byron made a challenge. We will each write a ghost story." Mary's story became Frankenstein. Byron's doctor, John Polidori, wrote The Vampire, the first modern vampire tale, the ancestor of Dracula, and Byron himself, watching a sun that seemed to be dying, wrote the poem Darkness. Morn came and brought no day. One volcanic winter, three monsters of modern horror. The same blood-red sunsets burned their way into the paintings of Turner. Scientists have literally measured the volcanic ash in his skies. And there's one more ripple. In Germany, horses starved as the oats failed. And in 1817, Carl Dreis built a two-wheeled machine you pushed with your feet, the ancestor of the bicycle. The famine very likely helped spur it. By 1818, the veil had cleared, the harvests returned, and the world forgot. But for 3 years, a single mountain in Indonesia had rewritten the weather of the entire planet. And nobody even knew its name. That's the fact. The most consequential year of weather in modern history wasn't caused by anything anyone could see coming. Or see at all. What the facts? Next time, the day a tidal wave of beer, more than 1 million liters, came crashing through the streets of London. You won't believe who it swept away.